Hello, this is Tim Law with Plain and Forward Coaching, always encouraging your self-reliance. If you develop a marketable skill, develop some good, going the extra mile, develop some good people and communication skills, you'll be amazed on what you can do in this country. A big thank you to almost 550 people that have subscribed to this channel, Plain and Forward Coaching. If you haven't done so already, please do so. I'd very much appreciate it. I have a special guest with me today that's I haven't had a chance to try to get caught up with. He made a wonderful tribute to Coach James Peckham, who was on the Olympic team, and want to introduce Kenny Mallory. It's the first time that we met each other. I'm very familiar with him because he was an NCAA wrestling champion. So Kenny, welcome, and tell us how you got started with wrestling.
Okay, it was a bit of a vengeance start. The night before I got started, some bully in the neighborhood. I was into HO car racing. These cars that you put on the track and you run around the track and your friend. I was one of the better kids in the neighborhood. So this one bully thought I had better parts than everybody else. Took my box and started running with it. He was older and bigger than me, and I couldn't catch him. So that box was very important to me. And I actually went into a store and asked the store owner if I can borrow his gun. Because that's how angry I was. He had my box.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was pretty enraged. And the guy was getting ready to give it to me. But the kid threw the box across the street and all my stuff crashed in the middle of the street. And I was angry, very angry. Picked all my stuff up, went home and forgot about it. I told my mother about the situation, and my brothers were sort of not around. They could have taken care of business, but we were different in many ways. So that morning I got up and I went down to learn professional wrestling. I says, I'm going to learn some things. I'm going to get bigger and stronger and learn some things to kind of take care of this person. So I went down and I saw this gym and I looked and I says, it looks like there are people that going in there and working out. So I go in there and I see these guys on the floor, but there was no ring, there was no turnbuckle, nothing like that. But it looked like they were wrestling, and they had these things on their ears. So I went and I sat down for a little bit. Dirty pants and Converses on. I sat down there for about 15, 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, this big guy comes over to me and he says, "You're going to get in here and wrestle, or you're going to just sit there?" And I says, "I don't have any gym clothes." He says, "I'll teach you a move that you don't need gym clothes for." So he taught me a headlock. Next week in high school, I was headlocking everyone I got a chance to. It just got into me. You know what I mean? I absorbed it, like it just took control of me. That headlock won me the state title, and I didn't even have a wrestling team. That headlock got me into the national finals where there were guys that had been wrestling 10 and 12 years. And I had basically a year and a half experience with no formal program or wrestling team. All I had was Coach Peckham. I would go to his workouts, work out there. I had a slight advantage because he basically taught me Greco-Roman. And in high school, they didn't do Greco-Roman. They weren't upper body people. but he also taught me how to guard against leg shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked out that combination, and I kind of figured out my success. At the same time, he was always on my back and paddling me, giving me confidence and nurturing me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into my first high school match, I pretty much was all Greco-Roman, and I dominated.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys weren't used to Greco.
Right.
You know, I went upper body and they were not used to it. Under hooks, over hooks, front overhead locks,
Mm-hmm.
souffles. I got disqualified one time. The only match I lost in high school, which was in my senior year, even though I won the state championships, it was an invitational meet, and I locked hands on the guy on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a no-no.
Right.
But I got over that. I took second place in the individual tournament. And at the same time, I was gathering up my own identity and ego and starting to see my place. And at the same time, again, I had Coach Peckham right next to me, enforcing and encouraging me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to do this, you got to do that. With everything physical he taught you something mental. Okay. And he was athletic director at Emerson College.
Mm-hmm.
So after practice, he would give me a meal ticket to go over to Emerson College and eat out of their cafeteria.
Wow.
Instead of eating my mother's food.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was always, how come you're never hungry when you come home from the gym? Because he gave me the meal ticket. So it's like little things like that, where he was such a father to me. At that time, my mother and father were divorced.
Mm-hmm.
My father was my father, and I loved him, but it was a different kind of love for Jim Peckham because he was watching every step I took. And if I made a misstep, boy, did you get reminded of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got reminded of it in such a way that it was enriching to you.
Sure.
So that's basically how we started.
Yeah, and you said you were 16 when you first started wrestling, which is unbelievable, and to still win the state championship. It's incredible.
Yeah, no wrestling team either.
Yeah, yeah.
I went down there and worked out with his team, which is potentially unfair. They were Emerson College wrestlers. They were in college. So that's who I worked out with. Those guys, they were bigger and stronger than me. But Emerson College is an art school, liberal arts school, whatever. You know, these guys go and practice ballet and stuff. So they weren't, tremendous athletes or anything like that. But some of them were really good wrestlers. I could name a few guys like Alan Shipley. There's one guy who was a Red Sox cameraman for many years. Art, I can't think of his last name right now. I just can't call it.
Sure.
Probably because we're in the interview mode. But he and I worked out. Most importantly, I worked out with a guy from MIT who just got into the NCAA Hall of Fame, Ed Hanley, as an official.
Uh-huh.
He had an unbelievable fireman's carry, and he taught me that fireman's carry. And I started using that fireman's carry. The way he did it was simple. He just shot straight in with the hand out on both knees and then just grabbed the arm and threw you.
Mm-hmm.
So he was more experienced than me. And he had been wrestling for many years. He's from Ohio or something like that. He went through his whole program and history. But Coach Peckham sent us to the Lawrence tournament. I couldn't beat him in the room. But when we got to the Lawrence tournament, I had to wrestle him in the finals because I had Greco'd everybody out. And I beat him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say egotism is the anesthetic that dulls the pain of stupidity. I didn't get ego from it. I got better. I got a belief in myself because I had been working out with this guy and I couldn't touch him in the room.
Yeah.
But I got into a real situation and I was able to beat him. And that changed me. Everything changed from that point on. I beat Ed Hanley and I'm in high school. That doesn't make any sense.
It would certainly increase your belief for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So you were saying earlier about Coach Peckham kind of being a father figure for us, Kenny. What some of the things that he accomplished and helped you with? How did he? You said he steered you on and off the mat and everything along those lines. So and you made a wonderful tribute about him. Just the other day, which is the reason I reached out for you. I felt this would be a great interview. So some of the things that he taught you as far as life lessons, that kind of thing.
Some of the stories he told, he was the greatest storyteller, but it was always like an analogy to real life.
Mm-hmm.
And once he told it, you couldn't let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kept molding the path that you chose. On top of that, his wife, Jean, who just passed away, she made the best lasagna in the world. So I'd go to Peckham's house, help out with his wrestling camp, and get that lasagna.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, then he had his son, Matt, who was like a brother to me, and his daughter, Diane. They were like brother and sisters to me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most important things about James Peckham is how he taught you specific training.
Right.
It started basically with the rope training.
Sure.
In his backyard, which is about 60 feet high, and doing it using no legs.
Right.
When you come down, you can cheat, you can use legs. But he taught me the most amazing strength training technique that I've been emphasizing to many people for many years. I gained 20 pounds once I started it. I was so skinny I could sit on a straw when I was like 16. He got me into doing what's called 3/4 maximums.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you come to the weight room, let's say you try a particular lift, a bench press, a clean and jerk, and you try and figure out what's the heaviest thing you can do. So say, for instance, I could bench press 100 pounds. So that was my maximum one time, 100 pounds. So then once you figured out your max, he broke it down. You got to do sets at 3/4 of that weight,
Mm-hmm.
3 sets of 10. So that would be 75 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
3 sets of 10. So in the beginning, you weren't able to do it. It took you about 2 weeks, maybe even sometimes 3 weeks before you can get the 3 sets of 10 at 3/4 of the maximum. And then after you do it with a little bit of sufficiency, like after 2 or 3 weeks, you retest your maximum.
Mhm.
Now you retest your maximum, you're no longer lifting 100 pounds for 1 rep. You're lifting 125 to 150 pounds.
Sure.
Rep. Then you redo your workout. You reset your maximum. So that 75 pounds for 3 sets of 10 goes up to whatever it is. 3 sets of 10 and 150 would be, I don't know, 100 pounds, something like that, just
Sure.
for argument's sake.
Sure. Sure.
He taught me how to lift, and I got bigger and stronger.
Mhm.
And at the time, my brother, my biggest brother, was beating me unfairly. He's a bigger guy, much bigger. But once I got on that program, okay, I was no longer a pushover.
Mhm.
Even though he was bigger, one day we got into it and I threw him down. And the way I threw him down was a body slam. He had 70 pounds on me. And I picked him up and I threw him down. And my mother saw it. I got on top. I locked him with a turkey bar and a half Nelson, and I held his arm back, and he started screaming like a woman. And that's my older brother.
Uh-huh.
So I says, I'm going to keep with these 3/4 maximums. So it's not only psychologically he helped me, encouragement wise, constantly feeding you philosophy on life and how you see other people and different things like that. But it was that, the physical part. And he had a covert way of nurturing you.
Mhm.
Okay, he didn't say much to you in terms of words, but he had a covert way of hugging you and encouraging you, which was most impressive and most powerful. And what it did was kept you on a straight path.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like you go to church and you pray. And any problems you got into, he would look into it first.
Sure.
I mean, I wasn't a troublemaker or anything like that, but I would tell him about certain things.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I sort of don't want to get off topic. We'd go down to the gym and take a shower afterwards. And strange guy kept looking at me. I'm like, what is his problem? Why is he staring at me? And I told Coach Peckham about it. I said, this guy keeps staring at me. Next thing I knew, he had the guy in the parking lot. Threw him around a couple. I guess the guy was, I don't know what you call it, pedophile or a homosexual or something like that, you know. And that's stuff I didn't understand.
Sure. Sure. You're too young. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But,
Kenny, let me ask you, let me ask you this question. Because this has been fantastic. I want to try to wrap it up a little bit here. What can you give us some short advice for young people, teens, young adults, as far as whether it's wrestling or just life in general? You know, a real quick thought that you have on that.
Real quick thought on life and wrestling.
Or just life lessons, you know, things that, you know, that you would advice you would give to teens or young adults.
Young adults, you must earn the right to win. By saying that, what I mean is, if you're going to compete, you must make sure and guarantee that you do more push-ups, more sit-ups, more running than your competition. And you have to build the confidence in yourself and know that you've done that. So what that does to you is when you walk out on that mat, you have confidence that you've earned the right to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've earned the right to be there, you lose your tachycardia, you know, those nerves before a match.
Sure.
And everything like that. And you get the kind of confidence that builds your future in the sport. As long as you know you've done more work than anybody else. That's the biggest thing I can tell you about the Peckham philosophy.
Sure.
Earn the right to win.
Yeah.
Who am I? I'm some 16-year-old skinny black kid from Roxbury, and I did more in a year and a half than these kids have been wrestling for years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I glued into his philosophy, his kindness, his love, and his whole thing. Once I got into the weightlifting thing, I didn't understand that weightlifting had nothing to do with wrestling at the time until I started doing it. From that, the earning the right to win aspect, I bought a bull worker and I got all these isometric things. I took a John Atlas course and I was geared towards strength.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, he got me into understanding your resting pulse,
Right.
how running made it lower. He says the lower your heart rate, the more in shape you are.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, my heart rate went way down based upon his running mechanics and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And doing wind sprints after practice, stuff like that.
Sure.
The whole thing is, his whole philosophy is earning the right to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Earning the right to win builds confidence in you, no matter who you are.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah. Well, Kenny, this has been wonderful. Can you hang out for a minute or so after we're finished here?
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kenny. I super appreciate this. And I'll talk to you on the other side here.